Well, the magic of the show is the family, the dynamics of the family and the stories that 1,000 people a day have. It's very interesting to see why people need money and why they come to the pawn shop.
Seth Gold's life took a devastating turn that no one saw coming. He wasn't just a pawn shop owner, he was the face of Hardcore Pawn, a show that turned his family's business into a household name. His father, Les Gold, built an empire, and Seth was expected to follow in his footsteps. But was there a hidden struggle no one ever noticed? Tune in, because the truth about Seth Gold is so tragic, the president of the US wanted to personally help him. The pawn shop power struggle. Behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Seth, the so-called brains behind the shop's marketing success, was struggling with pressures no one talked about. The fame, the expectations, the non-stop business. It all added up. Unlike his father, who thrived on the chaos, Seth had a different vision. He wanted to modernize the business, bring in fresh ideas, and move away from the drama that made Hardcore Pawn such a hit. But change wasn't easy, and in a family business, it's even harder when the person standing in your way is your own father. Before we go any further, it's clear that the tension behind the scenes was far worse than anyone realized, and this won't be the only revelation that will leave you stunned. The cracks in the empire started showing sooner than anyone realized. Seth may have had a degree from the University of Michigan and big ideas for the business.
How does my brother know that this guy was not in the parking lot signing their names before he came in here? No certificate of authenticity. My brother has no clue.
But he wasn't the one calling the shots. Les was still the boss, and he wasn't about to give up control. Tensions between father and son grew, and it didn't take long for the stress to spill over onto the show. Viewers saw arguments, heated exchanges, and moments where it was clear that the family wasn't always on the same page. What they didn't see was just how deep the divide had become. Hardcore Pawn wasn't just a TV show, it was a business strategy. The fights, the confrontations, the over-the-top reactions, they all made for great television, but they weren't always real. The more outrageous the drama, the higher the ratings. But not everyone in the Gold family was comfortable with this. Seth wasn't interested in being a TV villain. He wanted to build a business, not a spectacle. The more the show pushed for drama, the more he pulled back. And when the cameras stopped rolling, the pressure didn't. Things started to unravel faster than anyone expected. While the show was bringing in millions of viewers, it was also bringing in problems. The Gold family became celebrities, but with that fame came scrutiny. Seth had spent years working to make American Jewelry and Loan a legitimate business, but now it was being seen as just another reality TV sideshow. Customers didn't come in just to pawn their valuables. They came in to see a fight, to stir up trouble, to get their 15 minutes of fame. For someone like Les, this was just part of the game. For him, it was a nightmare. The show ended, but the damage had already been done.
It's Mother's Day coming up, and you know what? Great gifts for Mom is sterling silver and cubic zirconium. I just came from the West Coast and brought back brand new inventory.
American Jewelry and Loan was still standing, but it wasn't the same. The pawn business was changing, and reality TV had left its mark. Seth, once the rising star of the business, started stepping back. He wasn't in it for the fame, and he wasn't interested in playing a character anymore. He saw what the show had done to his family, his business, and his own reputation, and he knew that if he wanted to build something real, he had to walk away. But walking away wasn't easy. The Gold family had built an empire together, and stepping back meant leaving behind everything he had worked for. The tension between father and son didn't just disappear. Les had spent his entire life running the business a certain way, and he had spent years trying to change it. In the end, something had to give. And for him, that meant making a choice. Stay in a business that no longer felt like his, or step away and start something new. The story of Seth isn't just about a pawn shop or a TV show. It's about what happens when fame and family collide. Hardcore Pawn turned the Gold family into household names, but it also changed them forever. Some thrived in the spotlight, while others found themselves drowning in it. He had always been different from his father, quieter, more strategic, less interested in the chaos. And in the end, that difference was what set him apart. Today, American Jewelry and Loan is still standing, but it's not the empire it once was. The show is over, the cameras are gone, and the world has moved on. But for Seth Gold, the impact of those years hasn't disappeared. The fame, the pressure, the fights, it all left a mark. And while he may have walked away from the family business, the legacy of Hardcore Pawn still follows him. The fights on TV were wild, but the biggest problems happened behind the scenes, where trust was shaky and betrayal caused real trouble. The show's biggest fights were off camera. Hardcore Pawn was never just about gold chains and rare collectibles. It was a battlefield disguised as a pawn shop. And if you thought the biggest fights happened in front of the counter, you'd be dead wrong. Behind the scenes, the Gold family had its fair share of explosive moments, and one of the biggest came when he tried to pull a fast one on his father. Selling the Pontiac location behind his back? Yeah, that didn't sit well with the old man. What followed was a clash so heated fans thought he would be kicked off the show. But instead, they slapped a bandage on the wound and moved forward. Though let's be real, wounds like that don't just disappear. Then there was Rich, the guy who had been with them for over 25 years, practically part of the furniture at American Jewelry and Loan. But loyalty doesn't always pay, and when a disagreement flared up on screen, it marked the beginning of the end for him. Sure, he apologized, but it didn't stop him from slowly fading into the background. Fans weren't fooled. They speculated he was axed because he was getting too popular, stealing the spotlight from the family that wanted all eyes on them. And if you thought that was the end of the drama, think again. Bobby Johns, another employee, later spilled the tea. Rich wasn't just dealing with work problems. His wife was out there throwing shade online, posting nasty comments about Bobby, stirring the pot even more. Eventually, enough was enough, and Rich was gone. But let's not pretend that was the last power struggle in the shop. Hardcore Pawn thrived on chaos, and the cameras were always rolling. By its sixth season, the show was pulling in over 2 million viewers per episode, peaking at more than 3 million in 2013. That's some serious staying power. Even celebrities wanted in on the action, like Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, who casually dropped by the shop. And then there was the time the shop's owner bought something so shocking that even the most loyal fans were creeped out. The van used by Dr. Death himself, Jack Kevorkian. Linked to over 100 self-destruction, it was a morbid piece of history, and he snagged it for $20,000. Did he flip it for a fortune? Not exactly. In the end, he barely made a $5,000 profit, deciding it just wasn't worth the space it took up. But that's exactly the kind of move that kept viewers hooked. The shop was never just about money, it was about spectacle. And speaking of spectacle, you can't run a pawn shop without dealing with shady business. Theft, betrayal, and broken trust were all part of the deal. One of the most jaw-dropping moments came when Joe, a supposedly trusted security guard, was caught stealing. It wasn't some over-the-top reality show stunt, it actually happened. Bobby confirmed it later, admitting that working there really was like being in a family, just one that sometimes turned on each other. And while the Gold family kept the shop running, the Detroit businessman at the center of it all didn't just sit back and let the cameras define him. In 2013, he published an autobiography, spilling his business wisdom. The book didn't just sell, it became a bestseller, climbing up to 4th place on the New York Times list. Clearly, people wanted to know how he turned a pawn shop into a multi-million-dollar empire. But Hardcore Pawn wasn't just about Detroit's most famous pawn shop.
Hi, I'm Seth Gold from True TV's Hardcore Pawn. And if you're looking for a place to buy, sell, or get the cash you need to make ends meet, then I want to personally invite you to see my friends at A Pawn USA.
It sparked an entire franchise. Spin-offs like Combat Pawn, centered around a military-themed gun shop, and Hardcore Pawn Chicago, which followed 2 brothers running their own store, popped up trying to capture the same lightning in a bottle. But networks shift gears, and by 2014, True TV decided to move toward comedy programming. Hardcore Pawn was out, ending after its 9th season. When the show ended, the cameras were gone, but the problems stayed and some shocking rumors wouldn't go away. The fame that changed everything. Did that stop the Gold family? Not a chance. They kept running American Jewelry and Loan, growing their fortune, which by then had crossed the $5 million mark. But even with all that success, they couldn't escape the internet's favorite pastime, spreading false rumors. In 2023, a TikTok video sent fans into a frenzy, claiming the pawn shop patriarch had died. It wasn't true, of course, and Seth quickly shut down the rumor with a video showing his father alive and well. Instead of being angry, the businessman took it as an opportunity to connect with fans, proving once again that he knew exactly how to play the game. The decision to bring family into the mix was supposed to be a smart one. Seth was the marketing guy, the one pulling in fresh customers, while Ashley kept things running with her business skills and jewelry knowledge. That combination kept American Jewelry and Loan going strong, even when the cameras started rolling and the public eye never blinked. But when fame and family mix, things can get messy fast. And that's exactly what happened here. Hardcore Pawn had all the right ingredients for must-watch TV. It wasn't just a pawn shop, it was chaos, family drama, and shocking moments wrapped into one. People walked in with everything from golden teeth to stuffed alligators, and every episode promised a fresh dose of wild negotiations and loud confrontations. Fans couldn't get enough. It ran for 6 years and 9 seasons. But then, without warning, it was gone. The big question, why? Was it bad ratings? Too much behind-the-scenes drama? Or something bigger that no one wanted to talk about? Let's rewind to the beginning. The show launched in August 2010 and immediately became a hit. The first episode pulled in over 2 million viewers, setting records for true television. By 2013, more than 3 million people were tuning in regularly. It seemed unstoppable. And yet in 2014, it all came crashing down. No farewell season, no wrap-up episode, just silence. That kind of sudden disappearance always raises eyebrows. At the center of it all was a man who wasn't just some businessman. He was a third-generation pawnbroker who knew how to keep the spotlight on himself. American Jewelry and Loan had been around long before the cameras showed up, and his decision to include his son and daughter wasn't just about family, it was about strategy. Seth's marketing skills helped the shop reach a new audience, and Ashley's expertise kept the shop running smoothly. But putting family and business together doesn't always end well, and soon the cracks started to show. One of the biggest shockers? The firing of Pyle, a longtime store manager who had become a fan favorite. Rich, with his wild hair and easygoing attitude, had been working at the shop for over 20 years before the cameras started rolling. But one day, just like that, he was out. The official reason? He wasn't doing his job properly. More specifically, he left his post during business hours. The boss had apparently warned him before, and this was the last straw. But was it really just about that? Fans weren't so sure. Rich didn't go quietly. He fought back, arguing that after 2 decades of loyalty, he deserved better. He wasn't alone in that thought. Viewers flooded social media, demanding to know the real story. Then, things got even messier. A former employee, Bobby Johns, later spilled some details on TikTok, and what he revealed only made the situation murkier. According to Bobby, Rich had been on thin ice for a while. The problem? He started acting more like a TV star than a store manager. It wasn't just about one mistake. There had been multiple warnings. Then there was the drama with Rich's wife. Apparently, she had posted negative comments about management online, which didn't exactly help his case. But the final blow? A costly mistake involving a customer walking away with high-value gold jewelry without the proper checks. Even after things seemed calm, old problems kept coming back, proving the pawn shop was never just about selling and buying. When business turns against family, that was the tipping point. Between internal tensions, customer complaints, and management frustration, Rich's fate was sealed. He was out. And just like that, one of the show's most beloved figures was gone. But that's just one piece of the problem. The show's entire existence hinged on over-the-top drama, and that kind of energy isn't easy to sustain. Hardcore Pawn thrived on angry customers, heated arguments, and absurd deals. But after 9 seasons, maybe the formula started to wear thin. Maybe viewers got tired of the same screaming matches. Maybe the family tensions behind the scenes made it impossible to keep going. When Rich left, it wasn't just about a simple goodbye. The rumors about his money moves were wild. Some said he was taking cash straight from the business and messing with the records to hide it. Did he really do it? No one knew for sure, but the drama only grew from there. With the shop still open, the problems didn't stop. More scandals, fights, and chaos kept rolling in. The owner was known for being tough, but his hard rules didn't always go over well. One employee, Tony, found that out the hard way when he got caught saying something he really shouldn't have to a female coworker. He tried to backtrack, but it was too late. The boss suspended him without hesitation. No one was getting away with that kind of behavior under his watch. And if employees thought they could slack off, they had another thing coming. Hidden shoppers were always checking in, rating how the staff handled customers. Even family members like Seth and Ashley weren't safe from criticism, but their cousin Karen, she seemed to be the golden child, always getting praise. And let's just say that didn't sit well with Ashley. Ashley had another problem. Her brother Seth. Those two were at each other's throats constantly, fighting about how the business should be run. Seth liked to think of himself as the brains behind everything, and Ashley wasn't having it. But somehow, they managed to keep things together, most of the time. Of course, it didn't stop people from speculating about why the show really ended. Some said it was because the family just couldn't keep the peace anymore.
I was a pawnbroker, the manager of American Jewelry and Loan, and we did a promotion in the parking lot many, many years ago, and the executive producer from the Jerry Springer Show came.
Others thought the ratings tanked after Rich left. And then there were those who believed the network just wanted to focus on comedy instead. And then there was the never-ending comparison to Pawn Stars. People claimed Hardcore Pawn was just a cheap knockoff, even though the owner swore his show was more real. Unlike Pawn Stars, which focused on rare and expensive items, Hardcore Pawn showed the day-to-day struggle of regular people trying to get by. He defended the show every chance he got, insisting that it wasn't just about business, it was about survival. But when the show got the axe, its spin-offs tried to keep the flame alive. Hardcore Pawn Chicago and Combat Pawn hoped to capture the same energy, but they never reached the same level of success. Rich wasn't ready to step away from television just yet. Not long after, he got the chance to be on a new show called Meltdown on National Geographic. This time, instead of pawning items, he focused on something completely different, finding and recycling valuable metals. The idea was to show how everyday objects, like old electronics or broken jewelry, could be melted down and turned into something valuable again. It was an interesting concept, but the show didn't last long. After just one season, it was over. Even though it didn't run for years, it still gave him some extra time in the spotlight, keeping his name fresh in people's minds. But while Rich was busy with television, the rest of the crew had work to do. Back at American Jewelry and Loan, the business kept running, even without cameras filming every moment. The shop had become famous because of the show, and people still visited just to see the place in real life. Some came hoping to meet the owners, while others wanted to pawn or buy something, just like they saw on TV. The shop's owner, who had spent years dealing with the ups and downs of the pawn industry, decided to share his experiences in a book. He gave readers a look at what really happened behind the scenes, the kind of details that never made it into the episodes. From high-stakes deals to difficult customers, the book gave a deeper look at what it took to keep the business running, even when the cameras weren't rolling. Was Seth Gold's life really as perfect as it seemed, or was there a hidden struggle that the cameras never showed? Tell us what you think, and remember to like and subscribe for more.